Hello, moms, homeschoolers, teachers. My channel is for anybody who is wanting to be more effective with teaching math to your children or your students. My channel is Carla the Homeschool Helper. Because I was a homeschooler for many, many years, I learned a lot of tricks of the trade that I would like to pass on to anybody out there who is in need. I also have taught at our local state college for over 26 years as a math adjunct professor and just loved it. Have taught everything there from the very developmental math, rudimentary math concepts that people need to learn to be successful, all the way through pre-calculus and trigonometry. So I've got a lot of experience teaching at the older levels. I've also taught at the high school level for over 10 years, and I've taught at the elementary and kindergarten level for 4 years. So I have a lot of experience with many different age ranges, and what I am doing now, besides working at the college, is mostly teaching and tutoring students that are having difficulties. And so I thought for this first introductory video, I would show you how to make accurate fraction tools at home to use with your students. And we're going to take a plain paper plate, and I have, I don't know, 5 or 6 of them. I'm not going to do them all on here, but I want to show you how to accurately make fractions, fraction tools, so that you can show your students the equivalence of fractions. Very important. And I am a big believer that the brain needs to develop conceptually, visually, before you can do things abstractly. And I think a lot of the problem with our education system is that teachers sometimes skip the concrete portions of the presentation due to time or just the expensive materials. So that's why I'm showing you some cool tricks that you can use at home or on a very strict school budget where you don't have the ability to go out and purchase nice tools for showing fractions. So we're going to design. Now what I'm going to do first is I have got a compass, okay, and I have got a protractor. These are definitely necessary math tools for accuracy. I've also got some markers and my paper plates, and that's about all I need to do this well. So the very first thing we're going to do is find the center of our plate. Now I'm going to open my compass up. I have this compass, it's kind of missing a pencil, but I'm going to open my compass up, and I'm just going to kind of find a spot. And this plate, I don't know if you can see it, this plate has a nice little decorative rim. Okay, so I'm just going to find the center of my plate, trying to get the center of that decorative rim. So I'm going to start by putting my little measuring tool on the center. First, I open it up to what I thought might be about the center. Okay, about halfway, so that from what I thought was the center to the edge there worked. Okay, so that's how I opened up my compass. So then I go to 12 o'clock on my plate, and I put my empty pencil slot right there on the little rim that I'm trying to get, and I'm going to put a little mark where I think the center is. Okay, and then I'm going to pull it out, and I'm going to go over here to this point. And again, I'm going to get my pencil spot in the right spot, and I'm going to put a little dink in the plate again. Then I'm going to come up here. I'm turning it 90 degrees each time. And I'm going to put my little pencil holder up there where I want it. And I'm going to dink again. And then I do it a fourth time. Okay, and I do it again. And my center, I don't know, this is a plate that, can you see those little holes I've made in the center? So not trying to be too crazy accurate, but accurate enough so that the fractions look equally the same pieces, okay? So now I'm going to take my protractor and I'm going to put my protractor on the center spot. Okay, so I'm going to call the place that had the most holes punched, or kind of right in the center there, I'm going to call that my center. So I'm going to put a little mark on my center so that you can see it as well. The light is not great in here. I'm using my little home studio. This is a no frills channel, but hopefully you'll get a lot of really cool ideas for using with your students. So now I'm going to take my protractor, and this first one I'm just going to make thirds, okay, because thirds is something that people struggle with how to make. Halves are easy, right? To make a half, I would just go straight down through the plate and then cut my two figures in half. But for thirds, I'm going to have a starting point here. Okay, and I'm just trying to get my angles correct here. So now I'm going to move my protractor to where that is in the crosshairs there. My little point is in the crosshairs, you see. And now when I divide the 360 degrees of a circle into thirds, that means that each one of my portions is going to be 120 degrees. So I'm going to put the leftmost part of the leftmost part over here. You see the line that I've got my protractor on. And now I'm going to measure 120 degrees. Well, 120 degrees is bigger than 90, and it is over here. So I'm going to make a little line right here and right here, above and below the 120. You see the little marks that I made. And now I'm going to go back to the center, and I'm going to, from the center of my circle out to those marks, I'm going to make another mark. Okay, so now I'm going to come back to my starting place. I'm going to put my protractor upside down here, and I've got my center back in the crosshairs of my protractor, and now I'm going to look for 120 degrees this way. Okay, and that's going to be right here on my protractor, right there and right there. Okay, so now I'm going to draw my third line, and I have a third, a third, a third. Okay, now I am going to cut these out, but right now I'm going to mark this, each piece, a third. So you can do it any way you want to. Maybe you want to make them all that way. Okay, so now we have a third, a third, a third, and when we go to cutting that out, it should show that the pieces are pretty accurately equal, and 3 parts makes a whole. Now we are going to do the same thing, but now we're going to do a 1/6. Okay, so I'm doing the ones that are most difficult. Remember, if you're doing fourths, you're going to do a half through the center and another half going this way. And of course, in a fourth, the angles are 90 degrees apart. So let's do again, let's find the center of my plate as accurately as we can. Now you can sweep the center with your compass, and then you're going to get an even better idea of where you're, since I've got a nice little styrofoam plate, it really works well to kind of sweep to the center, and then I can see, I don't know if you can see those little crosshairs in there, I can sweep right through the center, move my lights a little bit, and I can see right where to put my little hole in between. Okay, so I'm going to put my little hole, the center of all of those little sweeps that I did. So there's the very center of my plate. And now I can cheat a little bit with 6, because 6 are halves of thirds. So basically on my thirds, I'm going to be drawing a halfway through, and guess what's going to happen? If I just continue on that line, I would get all the way through, and I would have a 6th. So what I'm going to do is start with a line all the way across my plate, going right through the center. So I'm going to have one line that goes all the way across, and then I'm going to measure my 120 like I did for my thirds, or you can do a 60, it'll work the same. But I'm just going to go ahead and start like I'm doing my thirds, and there's my 120 like I had before with the thirds. But now instead of going halfway, I'm going to go all the way across through the center of my plate. So I went all the way across. So now all I have to do is take one of those lines and go a 60 in between, the bigger line between the 120, and measure a 60. And then, so see, I've measured a 60 right through here, 60 degrees from this one. And now I'm going to take this one all the way through, and now I have 6th. Accurate 6th. So now I'm going to label those 1/6 and 1/6, and then I will be ready to cut those out, and the 2 of the 6 will wind up equaling exactly the same as one of the thirds, because I have accurately measured. The last one that I want to do for you is fifths, because fifths are also a little bit difficult. So we're going to again sweep to get the center of our plate. Okay, so I've got my other compass now. Let me see if I can open up wide enough. Okay, so I'm going to put, since I've got a different compass here, I'm going to put my edge of the compass about where I want my end of my rim, and I'm just going to sweep using my pencil down. Okay, I don't know if you can see that little sweep. Pencil does not write very well on this. I really need a pen. And then I'm going to move it 90 degrees, and I'm going to put the top right where I want it to be, and I'm going to sweep again, and then I'm going to do it again, turning it around, and I'm going to sweep a third time. You want to make sure that you don't let your compass do this while you're doing that. You want to keep them the same. But I don't know if you can see what the sweep does, but I can see right where the center of those 3 sweeps is, and that will be the center of my plate. Now, if I've got 360 degrees in my circle, which I do, and I want 5 equal parts, I will divide by 5. And 5 into 36 is 7. 7 times 5 is 35. And I get a 10 left over, and 5 goes into 10 2 times. So I'm going to do 72s. All right, so here's my starting line that I'm going to do. Just making a starting line halfway through, like we did for the thirds. Halfway through. like this. And now I'm going to measure from that point 72 degrees as accurately as I can, making sure that the little hole is right where it needs to be. And if you want to use a pencil or even the sharp edge of your protractor to mark that, you might get a little bit more accuracy, because 72 is a little hard to see. Okay, but I'm going to mark it with a little puncture mark there. Okay, and then I'm going to draw through the little puncture marks. And now I'm going to do the same thing again. Coming from the next one, I'm going to make sure that the center is in the center. The little hole that's in the center of the protractor is right in the center of the circle. I'm going to line up with the other line I just made, and then I'm going to do 72 degrees again. Can you see that 72 degrees is right there? So there's the 70 that I can see on the, hopefully you can see it. Okay, so I'm not making this up. There really is a 72 there that I can see. And then I'm going to make a little puncture mark or a marker spot, whatever's going to work for you, right at 72. And draw that line through the little puncture hole. Okay, so I'm almost there. So now, hopefully, what we have left, about 216 degrees is what we should have left. We have used 72 twice, which is 144. And then we take 144 away from the 360 degrees in a circle, and we should have 216 left. We continue on in that manner, and we eventually get all of our fifths done. And you can see that when we continue to do 72 degrees in each one of the angles, that we do wind up with a very nice little, looks like a sand dollar shape, right? Because that's broken up into fifths very nicely. So that's how you figure out how to do your plates. Now, let's review, because as you're doing these, you're going to want to make sure that you get each one of your angles correctly done. So if we are doing halves, then our angles are going to be basically straight down the plate. Remember, 360 degrees divided in half will be 180. Okay, 1/3, when you're dividing into thirds, you're going to have 1/20s. When you divide into fourths, you're going to have 90s. When you divide into fifths, we said they were 72s. When we divide into sixths, it is half of the 120, so it will be 60. We don't use sevenths a whole bunch. You can make a plate with sevenths. You just have to divide 360 by 7 as equally as you can. Eighths, we do use a bit. So eighths will be 45 degrees because eighths are half of fourths. And fourths are 90, so eighths will be 45s. Ninths, if you wish to do them, would be a third of a third, okay? So ninths would be 40. If you wanted to do ninths, they would be 40 degrees each. Tenths are going to be 360 divided by 10, which will be 36 degrees. And we don't use 11ths a whole bunch, probably not worth making a plate, but 12ths, okay? And 12ths are halves of the 6th, so that's going to be 30 degrees. So let me move this to where you can see that a little bit better. There we go. Okay, so that's just a review of the angles that you're going to use. Remember to use a compass and a protractor to keep your work neat. And I hope that you have found this a helpful little section. And again, please do this with your children, with your students, so that they are getting a perspective of what it actually means to divide something into thirds and fourths and fifths. Paper plates are just easy to come by wholes. You could use anything else that you wanted to, but they're uniform, they're easy to come by, and so paper plates work very, very nicely. I like to use paper plates because I often refer to my little pieces as pieces of pizza. Sometimes I even decorate them like pieces of pizza. But whatever you can find to make your fraction studies fun and interesting for your students. This is Carla, the homeschool helper, and I hope you have found this helpful. I will see you back again, hopefully, for a lot more tips and tools for making math fun. God bless.